Hey everybody, you see the title down below. And it basically states, as it says Archie Comics, or Archie, fighting proposed dismissal of Penders' copyright case. Or basically it's going to say Archie Comics fighting proposed dismissal of Penders' case, or whatever's going to fit in that headline there. It'll probably say most of it down there. And then it says here in bold print, and I will provide a link down below. It says settlement talks break down with much at stake. Here's what TSSZ News reports as of today at 1:27 p.m. Eastern Time. This is what they report, and I quote: Archie Comics is in serious danger of having its lawsuit against former Sonic Comics writer Ken Penders dismissed, potentially making a bad situation for fans of the series and those involved with its production worse. Counsel for Penders have requested the case be dismissed on the bias of an affirmation during a January status conference that both parties agreed to settlement terms, as well as an indication from Richard Berman, the judge overseeing the case, that the matter would be dismissed after January 21st no matter what, according to public documents obtained by TSSZ. But counsel for Archie have disputed the claim that any settlement is official, and have filed an endorsed letter in the case urging Judge Berman to deny Penders' request. Quote, Archie Comic Publications attorney Joshua Paul, we submit that this court may not dismiss this action with prejudice as requested by Mr. Penders' counsel. This would be appropriate, and greatly prejudicial to Archie Comic Publications' interest. Since Archie Comic Publications has not had a full and fair opportunity to litigate in this proceeding, since Archie Comics Publications, ACP, has not had a full and fair opportunity to litigate in this proceeding any of the issues that are raised in the parties' pleadings. Now it does say that Joshua Paul's letter alleges that both Penders and Archie concluded an understanding of the basic perimeters of settlement during a mediation session held on November 29, 2012, and reduced that understanding to 5 deal points covering 15 lines of text in a signed term sheet. But as we reported in December, a letter from Paul did use more concrete language in claiming the parties reached an agreement on the terms of settlement. Counsel for Penders assess that is enough, and cites the transcript of the January status conference between both sides. The transcript shows an irate Judge Berman trying to understand why it's taken so long for the settlement to be finalized. In one exchange, Berman appears to scold Joshua Paul for the delay, and this is what the transcript says, and I quote, "The court, good morning. The reason for this conference, as you know, is that I am not quite understanding why it's taken so long for the lawyers to draft up the papers. Perhaps you have done that by now." Joshua Paul: "Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Joshua Paul. I am an incoming new counsel for Archie Comic Publications. We had a successful mediation on the 29th. The court: 29th of what? November, Your Honor. The court. This is 2013, January. Joshua Paul. Right. So the parties reached an agreement, 5 points reduced to writing. The principals signed off on the agreement. The devil is in the details. Court. The devil is in the delay, counsel. I'm not really interested in the details. Joshua Paul. Yes. The court. Let me finish. Paul. Of course. The court. This is a matter that should have been wrapped up a long time ago. Give me the bottom line here. Joshua Paul. Bottom line, we do not have a signed settlement agreement. The court. Why not? And that's the end of the transcript. But then TSSZ quotes Joshua Paul by saying this, or by reporting this. Paul said the exchange that the quote-unquote core of the agreement will be in schedules, and that settling this matter is quote-unquote is the most important thing that Archie is dealing with right now, is to get rid of this litigation. And they report on, and I quote, Judge Berman did appear to okay. And then it says, TSSN reports, and I quote, Judge Berman then appeared to set a deadline for January 21st at, quote-unquote, at which time I'm going to dismiss the case, including counterclaims according to the transcript. But January 21st has come and gone with no settlement finalized. Joshua Paul's letter on behalf of Archie alleges there is one matter still in dispute. It appears to be the extent of which Penders' copyright characters can appear like a sonic character in of itself a whole. Okay. But January 21st has come and gone with no settlement finalized. Paul's letter on behalf of Archie alleges that there is one matter still in dispute. It appears to be the extent of which Penders' copyright characters can appear like a sonic character in of itself a whole other can of legal worms. Or can appear like a sonic character in of itself a whole another can of legal worms. Or whatever. Again, I'll provide the link down below. You guys can read it if you can't understand exactly what I'm trying to say here. And then it says, in the legal terms, it says, and I quote, a material term of settlement involved the scope of Mr. Penders' claims of rights to exploit certain claimed property rights to the future, in the future. Pursuant unto the term sheet, Mr. Penders' asserted rights, if exploited by Mr. Penders in the future, would not look and feel like they were part of the sonic universe. The parties have attempted without success to reach agreement of the meat and bounds of Mr. Penders' claimed rights, Schedule A. In absence of agreement of this key point, there can be no agreement between the parties. And then TSSZ goes on to report, and I quote, or TSSZ News goes on to report, and I quote, in a nutshell, attorneys of Penders hope to hold Judge Berman to his word on dismissing the case. Whether there's a settlement in place or not, if that happens and no terms are in place, Penders will retain total copyright control over the matters in dispute with Archie, including some characters, storylines, and more, making it very difficult for Archie to continue with catalog releases or bringing back characters widely believed to be purged in Sonic Issue 244 back to the series. A dismissal with prejudice would not allow Archie to refile the lawsuit again. It could also become a nightmare for both Sega and Electronic Arts. You may remember that Penders filed a suit in 2011 against both companies, alleging material under his copyright was used in Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. This case was dismissed, but appealed to the Ninth Circuit. The outcome of the Archie matter may determine how far this separate suit can go. Having a whole set of tested undisputed copyrights intact would be an incredible advantage for Penders against Sega and EA, and could potentially cost both companies dearly if they hold a second time. Judge Berman has requested briefs by next week. We will know something more about this case. When we know something more about this case, we will pass it along. So in other words, basically, from the way it sounds, and I guess you can kind of judge it yourself. Basically, the judge says, "Okay, Mr. Penders, I'm going to give you your dismissal without the possibility of any settlement of any kind." Archie Comics is basically going to have a lot to deal with. But I look at this from a positive aspect. I believe something is going to happen. I believe so. I think there is a settlement, probably an agreement. But, I'm not a lawyer or anything. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know any of this legal crap. Really, because I haven't gone to law school. And who hasn't? And who has? But this is basically how I look at it, folks. I basically feel that, again, something good's going to come out of this. But it's going to be, in a sense, like I said, it's going to be at a cost that not several people working on the comic are going to like. And maybe not some of the fans. I think obviously the settlement is, and because let's face it, you know as well as I do, Archie Comics has to be sharing some information with their staff, right? So they can prepare them for what they have to do. And this includes Ian Flynn, Tracy Yardlin, and anybody else. So this is the way I believe, this is what I feel is going to happen if, should something positive, which I believe is going to come out of this, something positive, which I believe is going to come out of this, will occur. Because I've said it before, I'll say it again. I feel that a lot of things are going to happen. A lot of the storylines and stuff that Ken Penders wrote for are going to be incorporated into the comic. In other words, let's say, for example, like I said, a great example I've used is the Years Later story arc. I know a lot of people like Ian Flynn don't want to look at that as being officially canon, but think about it this way. If the settlement is agreed upon, who's to say one of the details of that settlement doesn't indicate that all storylines that Ken Penders has written for the comic have to be okay. Basically what I'm trying to say is, I feel part of the settlement in some ways is going to say something along the lines that all stories Ken Penders has written for the comic when he worked on the comic will become canon. In other words, true parts of the continuity. This even includes Years Later. So in other words, what that would mean with the people like us, the fan base, or even the staff, like it or not, it means we will basically know what the future will be for the characters. I know some people don't want to hear that, but again, what are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? Another situation I think that's going on is, it sounds like to me that they want to do with Penders' characters what they're doing currently with the other characters, and that's kind of give them a redesign to make it look like they came from the games. That's what it sounds like to me. Again, I don't know all the details. I'll let anybody that probably knows a little bit more about legal stuff to read this in the link below. But again, that's what it sounds like to me. But what it does sound like is if something doesn't come down, something doesn't happen within the next week or so, everything that fans know about the comic is going to change. All the characters we would hope to come back are going to be gone forever. So that's just my take on it. The link will be provided below. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you later.